Welcome to Football with Cheese. In today's video, we're going to do a deep dive on the Chicago Bears. We're going to break down what happened last year, what's happened so far this year in their first 9 games, and how I think the rest of the season will go. So if you have not subscribed, please do so now so you never miss one of my videos. And I am ready for the comments because a lot of Bears fans are going to push back, but I'm going to use facts, stats, and analytics to prove my point. This is a whole series this week. I did the Steelers yesterday. I'm going to do the Browns and Jaguars, and hopefully have time for one more team later in the week. We'll see. But let's talk about the Bears. Last year, they started 4-2. Schedule was kind of light, like this year. And then they absolutely collapsed down the year. They lost a game on a Hail Mary to Washington. Matt Eberflus was horrific. Horrible coach. He got fired. So it was just a disaster to end the year. They probably did overachieve the first 6 games. They weren't a 4-2 team, but they underachieved the second half of the year. They should have been better than that. So fast forward this year. They hired Ben Johnson. He was the most sought-after coach. Very good offensive mind. They have a pretty good draft. They get Caleb Williams some weapons. They get Colson Love and Luther Burden. They trade for some offensive linemen. They even had a really good pick in the 7th round, Kyle Monangai, running back from Rutgers. So there's a lot more talent around Caleb Williams, better coaching staff. So no more excuses. He needs to play better in his second season. So let's just break down, first of all, we'll get to Caleb Williams in a second, who the Bears have beaten. In their wins, they've beaten the Cowboys, the Raiders, the Commanders, the Saints, the Bengals, and the Giants. None of them have more than 3 wins. Not one. The best team they beat record-wise is the Cowboys, who are 3-5-1. So, when you improve the head coach, I guess you win games you should. You beat the bad teams, right? Here's the thing, though. They beat the Raiders 25-24. They beat the Commanders 25-24. I get it. They were in the NFC title game last year. They stink this year. They're 3-7. Absolutely stink. Their best wins, I guess, were against the Cowboys and Saints. You beat the Saints by 12 and the Cowboys by 17, but those were at home. You beat the Bengals, but you gave up 42 points, and you went on some fluky play where I don't know what the Bengals were doing on defense. Somehow Colson Loveland doesn't get tackled and just runs for a long touchdown. Really fluky play. You completely blew a big lead in that game. You usually do not win games where you give up 42 points, but the Bengals always seem to lose those games. They lose every shootout, it seems like. And then you beat the Giants on Sunday, where you had 10 points until the last 4 minutes of the game against a bad team, a bad defense. So let's recap. You barely beat a Giants team where you were down 10 in the fourth quarter, whose quarterback got hurt, knocked out with concussion. You barely beat a Bengals team without Joe Burrow. And you barely beat Washington and Las Vegas on the road, 25-24 in both games. And those teams stink. And now let's look at who they lost to. They lost at home to the Vikings week 1, a game they absolutely should have won. Caleb Williams played terrible. They could have put the Vikings away early and then collapsed in the fourth quarter. They lost to Detroit by 31. Absolutely destroyed in that game in week 2. It's really tough to play in Detroit, but got obliterated. So they started 0-2. They've won 6 of 7 because the schedule got really easy. But they lost to Baltimore 30-16 without Lamar Jackson. Not only did they not have Lamar Jackson, they had a quarterback that was on the practice squad most of the year and lost that game by 14. Here's another stat. The Bears have faced one top 10 defense as far as yards go in the NFL this year, and that was Detroit, and they lost by 31. Not only that, the Giants, Commanders, Cowboys, and Bengals have the 4 worst defenses in the NFL according to yards per game, and the Bears beat all 4 of them. That's who they've played. They are playing a last place schedule because they finished 4th in the NFC North. That's allowed them to play the Raiders. It's allowed them to play the Saints. While they're playing the Raiders, Vikings playing Chargers, Packers, Broncos. Lions already lost to the Chiefs, and you get the Raiders. So they have played a really easy schedule so far. And the two best teams they played, Baltimore and Detroit, both on the road, they pretty much got dominated. Now, Bears fans, you should be happy. You're tied for first with Detroit in the NFC North. But you're 0-2 in the division. You have a -8 point differential, despite being 6-3. And the schedule is going to get rough. This coming week, they're at Minnesota. I think it's a must-win because they lost at home to Minnesota week 1. Prove that you are a playoff caliber team. You need to go to Minnesota and win. I don't know what to expect from the Vikings. They've looked really awful in some games and really good in others. But you need to go in there and win that game. Then they have the Steelers at home. Steelers are very up and down. They're at Philadelphia, at Green Bay. Packers have a championship caliber defense, and the offense is a mess right now. You don't play the Packers for a month. Who knows? Maybe they'll have offense figured out. Maybe not. Then Browns at home. Very winnable game. Should win the game. You never know. Then Packers at home, at 49ers, Lions at home. That's not an easy schedule. And you need to go at least 4-4 to make the playoffs. You might have to go 5-3. You might have to win 11 games because NFC is really loaded this year. I don't know if I see 5 wins in the schedule. You're not going to sweep the Packers. Despite them struggling, it's not going to happen. The Packers have absolutely owned you. In fact, if it wasn't for a game where the Packers rested all other players, you haven't beat Green Bay in 7, 8, maybe 9 years. And, of course, they did in Lambeau Field to end the year. But like I said, Jordan Love was rested. A lot of players were rested in that game, and you barely beat them. So if you just count games where they didn't rest players, you haven't beat the Packers in forever. They have owned you. And you play the Steelers in a couple weeks. Aaron Rodgers has absolutely owned the Bears. We'll see what happens. The Steelers struggling a little bit right now. But look at the schedule. 4 wins maybe. And you have to win at least 4 to make the playoffs. Now let's talk about Caleb Williams. I have to bring up Colin Cowherd. Yes, Cowherd, that is his name. I do not know how this guy has been on radio and TV for so many years. He's one of the biggest idiots in sports today. His takes are terrible. He says the dumbest things, and then every time he says the dumbest things, gets called out on it. He says, well, I have new information. I've changed my mind. He is a complete idiot. Kiss of death. He just talked about how wonderful Caleb Williams is. Just talked about how clutch he is. Like, he's the next big thing. Worst thing could ever happen to the Bears and Caleb Williams. Colin Cowherd is saying you're great. I get it. Caleb Williams has good stats in the fourth quarter. Some of that is garbage time, and some of that is playing bad defenses who are playing prevent. That's basically what happened in a lot of these games. Let's just look at the game log for Caleb Williams. I thought I had pulled up. Yeah. The 2 worst defenses in the NFL right now are Dallas and Cincinnati. By far. They're horrible. You have thrown 7 touchdowns and no picks in those 2 games. Okay? Caleb Williams has. If you take away those 2 games, he's thrown 6 touchdowns and 4 interceptions in the other 7 games. That's not very good. And he's only played 1 top 10 defense. I have more. Caleb Williams, only 60.8% completion percentage. No doubt about it, there were some drops in the Giants game. It's a young group of weapons, but it's a talented group. An analytical stat I like is completion percentage over expected. Basically, if you have bad receivers or dropping passes, then it's going to be much higher. And if you're inaccurate, you're missing open receiver, it's going to be lower. And Caleb Williams is negative 3.8%. That is awful. That is worse than Bryce Young, who's having a really bad year for the Panthers. In fact, I have all the analytical stats pulled up. Caleb Williams is in the top 15 in 1 of them. And he's not in the top 20 in 3 of them. There's 7 stats here. So despite playing bad defenses, despite the easy schedule, analytics is telling me he's not really playing well. The one thing he's really improved on is not taking sacks. I'm going to give him credit for that. He took way too many sacks last year. He's still not throwing a lot of picks. That's good. He didn't throw a lot last year. He just doesn't. Usually because he's so inaccurate at times, he misses the corner too. So according to analytics, Caleb Williams is not only not a top 15 quarterback, he's borderline top 20. Playing an easy schedule, playing horrible defenses. He hasn't played the Eagles defense yet. Green Bay Packer defense twice, Browns defense, Lions again. We'll see what happens when Caleb Williams plays those teams. I know Bears fans, you hate the Packers, but their defense is legit. They just held the Eagles to 10 points. That is really hard to do. And I just want to mention one more thing, because a friend of mine sent this to me. Pro Football Focus, PFF, is garbage. I hate their grading system. I'm going to do a long video going over everything wrong with PFF in the offseason. I already did one earlier this year, but I'm going to do a deeper dive in the offseason. And a friend of mine said that Caleb Williams is now 10th in PFF grade. That's fine. But Marcus Mariota is 6th. So it's a flawed system. Patrick Mahomes is 13th. Baker Mayfield is 15th. Jared Goff is 16th. Come on. Lamar Jackson is 19th. Right. So in the comments, don't say, oh, he's a top 10 quarterback according to PFF. Please do not do that. Because PFF is a joke. One last point. Caleb Williams, Ben Johnson. Show me what you're made of. The schedule's going to get harder. You're going to start playing better defenses. Let's see if Ben Johnson is this offensive genius. Let's see if Caleb Williams is this great quarterback that Colin Cowherd now says he's just amazing. He's clutch. So we'll see what happens. Last 8 games. I think the Bears would be lucky to be 4-4 looking at that schedule, and probably going to be worse. So make sure you subscribe, hit the bell for notification. Lights Out Podcast, me and Mike, every Tuesday night, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. Link in the description. If you enjoyed this, please give me a thumbs up. Bears fans, I know you're going to trash me in the comments, but there's not one stat or analytics that I did not say that wasn't true. And I even brought up PFF. He's top 10 for you. Of course, it's terrible. So let me know in the comments how much you hate me. And share this with anyone who loves football. I cover all 32 teams. Like I said, I'm doing a deep dive on the Browns and Jaguars next, so make sure you check that out. Also, if you haven't seen these videos, please click those links, and I'll see you in the next one.